are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for all right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the final,
keep yourself in the loop of everything football on the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. The latest news on and off the field, be it college football, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC to the NFL. We've got you covered. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
And welcome everybody to another edition of the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Kenneth, and it's great to have you guys here on this Wednesday, June 5th. We have a lot to talk about on the show today. Before I get into that, just want to remind you guys, as always, to tip or donate and get your comments recognized, make sure to go to the following link. That is gsmcpodcast.net. Again, that really helps the show, makes the show more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. Again, that is gsmcpodcast.net. And as always, it is displayed on the ticker at the bottom of the show segment down below. So, with that being said, let's get into what we are going to talk about for today. So, we're going to start off the show. We're going to talk about Christian McCaffrey getting a new deal, break that down. And then in the second part of the show, I'll continue my schedule breakdowns. We'll talk about the Saints' schedule for the 2024 season. Then in the third part of the show, I'll talk about Justin Jefferson and some comments he made after his new deal, kind of talking about a few things, including the quarterback battle that's going on between Sam Darnold and J.J.McCarthy. Then in the fourth part of the show, we'll talk about Stephon Diggs and his comments on leaving Buffalo and going to Houston. So we'll get into that. And then the final part of the show, I'll talk about some comments made by Eagles head coach Nick Sirianni on them signing Saquon Barkley and how he likes to poke fun at Giant fans. So we'll get into that as well. So let's get into the first topic, which is talking about Christian McCaffrey. So he got a new deal, a 2-year, $38 million extension with the San Francisco 49ers. The extension is worth $19 million per year, and he remains the highest paid running back in the NFL, and he deserves that. McCaffrey's previous contract was signed with the Panthers back in 2020, and that averaged a little over $16 million per year. He was set to earn $11.8 million in 2024 and $12 million in 2025 before the extension. And he's now set to earn $62.2 million over the next 4 years, averaging $55.55 million per season. He has $24 million in fully guaranteed money. Earnings include $16 million in 2024 and a little over $16 million in 2025. Now, compared to other running backs, Alvin Kamara is earning $15 million annually, and he signed that in 2020. Jonathan Taylor's deal, $14 million annually, the 3-year contract that he signed recently, $42 million. And Saquon Barkley, over $12.5 million annually, signed that 3-year deal with the Eagles. So that's kind of in comparison to some of the other running backs. And then looking at McCaffrey's stats from 2023, he was unbelievable. 1,459 rushing yards on 272 carries and 14 rushing touchdowns. He also had 564 receiving yards on 57 catches and 7 receiving touchdowns. And like I said, I mean, he deserves every dollar because that's how great this guy is. The extension keeps McCaffrey under contract until 2027 when he will be 31 years old. And yeah, he's getting up there in age for a running back, but he's showing no signs of slowing down. And when he was with the Panthers, you know, he dealt with injuries towards the end of his tenure there. And it kind of seemed like, you know, he was getting to that point where he was just injury prone, but knock on wood, he's been relatively healthy with the 49ers. He really has not missed time. Now, he's dealt with injuries while he's playing, but really hasn't missed any time with them. And that's been such a great spot for him. And that's really taken the 49ers offense to another level Because, I mean, they've had some good running backs. Elijah Mitchell, his rookie season, he was a good running back. But, I mean, Christian McCaffrey just elevates that offense. And to go along with the guys that they have there in George Kittle and Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel, and, with Brock Purdy playing well at the quarterback position, I mean, this is one of the best offenses in the NFL, and Christian McCaffrey has a lot to do with that. That's why he was the focal point of the offense in the Super Bowl. I mean, they just kept force-feeding it to him. And, I mean, this 49ers team is really talented, but, like I've talked about a lot on this show, they've come up short. And they're trying to get over that hump and win a championship with this group. And some of these other guys are looking to get paid. The 49ers, they paid Juwan Jennings recently. Now they paid Christian McCaffrey. Brandon Ayuk's looking for a new deal. That's what we're waiting for, and we'll see if that ends up happening. But they went out and they paid McCaffrey, gave him an extension, so that's just another 49er that's gotten paid. That isn't Brandon Ayuk. But, I mean, Christian McCaffrey has been unbelievable with the 49ers. I mean, his first full season, like I said, it was, I just read you the stats, was great. And I actually wanted to look at his stats from the previous season, if I can pull them up. Because he did split some time with the Panthers and the 49ers the previous season. So with the 49ers in 2022, had 159 carries, 746 yards, and 6 touchdowns. So in total with the Panthers and the 49ers, he had over 1,000 yards. He had over 200 carries, and he had 8 rushing touchdowns. But yeah, in 2020, missed time due to injury. In 2021, missed some time due to injury. But these last 2 years, he's been healthy, and I think that's been key for him and for the 49ers. And I think I saw something that, I don't know, if I saw an article about him talking about, his conditioning, trying to, keep himself in shape. I mean, obviously he's always in shape, but that might have had something to do with, him changing how he goes about things. That might have had something to do with why he's been able to stay healthy these last couple of seasons. Maybe he wasn't doing something right the previous couple of seasons, and that's why he was banged up so much. But also because, the position he plays, I mean, you're going to receive some punishment. So that has something to do with it. Because that's, I mean, like I said, he may have played every single game last year, pretty much. I don't think he played in the regular season finale, but he was still dealing with nagging injuries. But he still managed to play. But he didn't miss any time like he did in 2020 and 2021. But I think that he's kind of changed some things, and that's why he's been able to, not miss time, which is great because, he's one of the best players, not just running back wise, but in the NFL, and he's an exciting player to watch. So, the fact that he's able to stay on the field, stay healthy, that's great because, we can continue to watch him. And the other thing, too, is he's in a good spot with the 49ers. Like I said, he was the focal point in the Super Bowl. But, I mean, there's other guys that can carry the load a little bit. It doesn't have to just be him. Because in Carolina, you could argue that, yeah, that's what he was. He was the main guy. I mean, they also had DJ Moore there as well. But still, I mean, McCaffrey was the guy. Now in San Francisco, you got, like I said, other guys that could take the load off of you. Deebo Samuel could take the ball out of the backfield as well. George Kittle could take over a game. Brandon Ayuk could take over a game. Just mentioned Deebo Samuel. Deebo Samuel could take over a game. I know he had a monster game against the Eagles in the regular season last year, so that's just one example. But they got weapons everywhere. So, it's nice for McCaffrey that, yeah, he might get a heavy workload, but there's also other guys that, like I said, could take the load off of him. And, at least they got him for, a few more seasons with this new extension. So he's secured. Now we got to see, like I said, what are they going to do with Brandon Ayuk? Is he going to be there, or is he going to be gone before the season starts? we'll have to wait and see. But they did draft a receiver. They drafted Ricky Pearsall. So that could be his replacement. That could be Deebo Samuel's replacement. Maybe they just trade Deebo Samuel out of nowhere. We'll just have to keep an eye on that. But, yeah, I mean, this is, like I said, McCaffrey deserves this deal. And, you know, they're gearing up for a 2024 season where I think they're going to be a really good team once again. The conference is going to be better. But I still look at them as the team to beat. Now, again, the pathway is going to be tougher because I just think the conference is going to be better. And even last year, they almost lost to the Packers and they almost lost to the Lions. And those teams aren't going anywhere. And you figure the Eagles are going to be better as well and be back more towards the team that was, you know, going to the Super Bowl against the Chiefs a couple years ago. I think we're going to see more of that team. So, we'll see what happens. But this 49ers team is still really good. And, like I said, I think they're still the team to beat. But it's going to be tougher. So, we'll see if they can get over the hump in 2024 and get back to a Super Bowl. So, but that's my thoughts on that. But, yeah, let me know what you guys think about Christian McCaffrey's new deal. And how do you see him performing in 2024? I mean, he's still going to have a great season. I mean, I think you could lock that in. But we'll see how he does. And we'll see if he can, break that streak for most consecutive touchdowns. Because, I mean, they were trying really hard. I know he ended up losing it against the Jaguars. Because they put Sam Darnold in, but they left McCaffrey in. And they were still trying to get it for him, but didn't pan out. But, yeah, McCaffrey's like a lock to score a touchdown every single week, basically. So, but, yeah, let me know what you guys think about McCaffrey's new deal and how do you see him performing in 2024. So, we are going to take our first break, and when we come back, we'll talk about the Saints' schedule. I'll break it down, give you my early win-loss prediction for them, and that's what we will do when we return from our first break. So, with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the second part of the show, we are going to go over the Saints' schedule for 2024. I'll give you my early win-loss predictions for them. So, again, got to switch a couple things around here. The Saints were kind of a frustrating team last year for me, especially doing my spread pool. I just could never really get a feel for the team. They were very inconsistent, but they did still finish 9-8. They did finish the season strong. They beat Tampa, and then they destroyed the Falcons. I think the final score was 48 to 17. And Derek Carr played well down the stretch, but they fell a little bit short. So they're one of the teams that I don't really know what to expect from them. Again, it's a new season. I don't know if they're going to carry that momentum from the end of the season into 2024. I mean, they're getting older on defense. I know Marshawn Lattimore, there were talks about him, being traded or not, their top corner, but that hasn't happened. Alvin Kamara's getting older. There's no more Michael Thomas. So, yeah, there's some things. There's some players that like I said, are getting older. We're in a new era with the Saints, and obviously Drew Brees hasn't been there in quite some time now, and I know we talked about him recently. So, but yeah, this is Derek Carr's team right now, and I think this team is going to be competitive with him at quarterback. But let's go through their schedule now. So they start off playing the Panthers, and I feel like with this division, I basically said, well, I think these teams are just going to sweep the Panthers because I still just don't think the Panthers are going to be very good, but I do think the Panthers are going to be better. I don't know how much better, but I think they're going to be somewhat better because last year was just a disaster. And I do like that they have at least made an effort to try to surround Bryce Young with more talent. They added to the offensive line, and they drafted a receiver. They traded for Deontay Johnson. So they at least made an effort. And then they also drafted a running back as well. So I think the Panthers will be better, but I don't think by that much. I think the Saints will win here. Start off the season 1-0. So that's my thoughts on this game. The Saints did sweep the Panthers last year, and I think that might happen again. I'm sorry, Panthers. I got to see it. I know I have every single divisional team defeating them, but maybe they do get a win because they did beat the Falcons last year, so they did go 1-5, but we'll see. But yeah, I have the Saints winning. Cowboys, I feel like this game could go either way, but I think because the Cowboys are at home, I'll probably take them. So Saints are 1-1 at this point. Then they take on the Eagles. Again, I mean, they're at home. But again, I think the Eagles are going to be much better this year. So I'm going to take the Eagles. But again, the Saints are at home. It's possible they win. Now, they take on the Falcons. And I think they'll split with the Falcons. So I'll give them a win and a loss. Then they go to Kansas City. And, I mean, that's going to be a tough game. And Derek Carr has played in Arrowhead a lot. But it's tough to beat the Chiefs there. So I'm going to give the Chiefs the win. Then the Bucs come to town. Like I said, I think they'll split with the Bucs and the Falcons. So I'll give them a win and a loss. Then Week 7. It's an intriguing matchup because Sean Payton will be making his return to New Orleans. And I don't know who's going to be starting at quarterback by this time. Because it seems like, I guess Jarrett Stidham's kind of in the lead to start. And then you got Bo Nix. And don't forget, he's got Zach Wilson as well. He could be starting at this point. But either way, whoever does start, I'm going to say the Saints, they take this one. They win that in Sean Payton's return. Because I think the Saints are a better team. But we'll see. Then Week 8. Yeah, this one's kind of a toss-up. Chargers and the Saints. I'm going to take the Chargers. I'm going to say the Chargers win this one. And the Saints get the loss. But then they rebound because they play the Panthers. So I'll give them the win. Again, sorry Panthers fans. I apologize. But that's just how I feel. Then, I already, like I said, a win and a loss against the Falcons. They split. Browns at home could be interesting. Because I do think the Browns are going to be a good team. I'm going to say, yeah, because then they take on the Rams. They got 3 straight home games here. I'm going to say I'm going to say they split the Cleveland Rams games. I think they win one and they lose one. But actually, they do have a bye week in between that. But yeah, I think they'll split. I think they'll lose one and they'll win one. I mean, the Rams did beat them last year. That was it, but the Rams were at home. Not that it really matters. I mean, there's no home field advantage at SoFi Stadium, but yeah. So they'll win one and they'll lose one. Then they take on the Giants. I feel like this is a game the Giants could win, but the Saints, they could win that. Against Washington, Washington's another team. These are two teams I really don't know what to expect from them. I know I didn't give Washington a lot of wins, but, it depends on how Jaden Daniels plays. But I'll give the Saints the win because they're at home. Packers on the road late in the season. I'm going to give the Packers the win there. Then the Raiders come to town, Derek Carr's old team. I'm going to say the Saints win that. And then, like I said, they'll split with the Buccaneers. So, let's see. So I have them winning against the Panthers, winning against the Falcons, winning against the Bucs, the Broncos, the Panthers again, one of the Browns or Rams games, winning against Washington, winning against the Raiders. So 8-9 wins around there. I think that's fair. I mean, that's what they finished with last year too. So, yeah, so right now I have the Falcons at 10-7. Saints, like I said, 8-9 wins. Bucs at 8-9 wins. I had them at 8. But, they went 9-8 last year. But, yeah. So, Falcons and, or not Falcons. Buccaneers and Saints finishing around the same record. And then I had the Falcons in first place at 10-7. So, tomorrow we're going to do the Panthers, which, yeah, there might be a lot of losses. But again, this is very early predictions. I mean, I'm not expecting to be on the money with a lot of these, because some teams I got to see how they actually play. Like the Panthers, they could be an improved team. I mean, I don't think they're going to win a lot of games still, but I expect them to do better than they did last year. So I'm going to have to try to find some wins within the schedule when we go through that tomorrow. But yeah, I think so far with this division, I think I've been fair. Falcons with 10, Saints with 8 or 9 wins, Bucs with 8 wins. I think that's fair. So it's gonna be jam packed. Kind of like what it was last year. So, and the Panthers are kind of like the 4th place team. But we'll see what happens. But let me know what you guys think. How many games do you think the Saints will win in 2024? So, before we go to break, again, just want to remind you guys to tip or donate, get your comments recognized. Make sure to go to the following link. That is GSMCpodcast.net. Again, that really helps the show, makes the show more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. Again, that is GSMCpodcast.net. And as always, it is displayed on the ticker at the bottom of the show segment down below. So when we come back from our second break of the show, we're going to talk about Justin Jefferson, a couple things that he had to talk about, after his new deal. He talks about leadership as well as the Vikings quarterback battle. So I wanted to touch upon that and what he had to say. So that's what we will do when we come back from our second break of the show. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the third part of the show, we're going to talk about some comments made by Justin Jefferson after he got his new deal, talked about leadership, as well as the Vikings quarterback battle that is going on. So this is what he had to say. Just being the highest paid just comes with being a leader. I always preached it. The money never was a big thing for me. It was mostly just solidifying myself as a top receiver in the league. Of course, I want to be holding that gold jacket when my career is all over with. It's going to happen. My contract talks are going to happen when you're performing at this type of level. But just like I said plenty of times, there's more to it than just money for me. I want to be the best player to ever do it. In order to do that, I've got to keep performing at my highest ability. With that, money is going to be involved. But that wasn't my main concern. I feel like just with last year, with all the things that happened, all the quarterback changes that happened, that didn't really affect me that much. It really didn't matter who was going to be able to throw the ball. I'm always confident in myself and confident in who was throwing the ball to get me those type of opportunities. And let me just go out and make a play for the team. I talked to JJ, meaning J.J.McCarthy. As soon as he got drafted, I told him confidence is key, just coming into the league with confidence and being able to have that leadership just right off the bat, being a rookie. There's going to be people to come in and help. Of course, I'm going to be the main person to be in his ear and try to teach him and try to prepare him for what we're going to go through. But I told him this league is tough. It's not an easy job to come out here and perform at the highest ability, especially as a rookie, but I'll definitely be that main person that he can lean on and help throughout the way. So a lot to say there. Didn't even mention anything about Sam Darnold, but he did talk about talking to J.J.McCarthy and trying to encourage him and be a good teammate, and that's what you're going to have to, because the Vikings, J.J.McCarthy is their future. They look at him as the future, and they got Justin Jefferson secured, so they're hoping that they have their quarterback, so you could see some JJ to JJ connections. But yeah, did have a lot to say. Talked about how money isn't about everything, and yeah, it depends on who you talk to. I think Justin Jefferson, yeah, he did say money isn't everything, but he did want to get paid. That is part of it. So I mean, I don't know how true that is. I mean, we'll probably never get the real answer, but he talked about, being a leader, and, at the end of the day, he wants to be the best to ever do it and have that gold jacket, and that's what a lot of players want. So no, you can appreciate that he wants to be great, and he already is. I mean, he is arguably the best wide receiver in the NFL, and he's going to continue to do that. And I thought what was interesting was him talking about, the quarterback carousel that was the 2023 Vikings last year, because you went from Kirk Cousins to Joshua Dobbs to Jaron Hall for a little bit to Nick Mullins. It was all over the place last year. And that combined with Justin Jefferson missing some time, and I think, only playing in 10 games, he still had over 1,000 yards, which is very impressive. And that just shows you the talent that he possesses. And I think no matter who's playing quarterback, whether it's Sam Darnold to start the year, whether it's J.J.McCarthy, I think what's going to happen is Sam Darnold's going to start, and then J.J.McCarthy's going to get eased into it, I think, as soon as this year. But again, I'm not the Vikings, so I don't really know what their thought process is there. But I think Sam Darnold is going to start, at least start the year, and then J.J. McCarthy's eventually going to take over. But that's my opinion. Yeah, I think regardless of who's starting, Justin Jefferson is going to put up monster numbers, because that's the receiver that he is. I mean, you go back and you talk about receivers like DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, look at the quarterbacks that he had to play with. I mean, the list goes on and on. Matt Schaub and Brock Osweiler, T.J. Yates, Brandon Weeden, I think, Deshaun Watson, Tom Savage. I mean, the list goes on and on with the amount of quarterbacks that he played with. But you know what? He still produced. And I'm just talking about, with Houston, because I know, he played with Kyler most of the time, but, Kyler got hurt. And you had Colt McCoy playing some games. But, yeah, I mean, that's one receiver that I could think of that played with a bunch of receivers. And I think about Devontae Adams, too. I think, like, 2016, well, his rookie season, he was good. Then 2015, Packers fans were done with him. Then 2016, started to play better with Rodgers. But then 2017, Rodgers fractures his collarbone. And he had to play with Brett Hundley. And he was still playing well. And look at with the Raiders, these last couple of seasons. I mean, Derek Carr, they bench him. He has to play with Jarrett Stidham. He still put up good numbers. And, he had to play with Jimmy Garoppolo and Aiden O'Connell last year. But, still, again, put up good numbers. So, if you're a great receiver, you could play with anybody. For the most part. And Justin Jefferson, I mean, that's the thing. I guess people were curious on, well, there's no Kirk Cousins. How is he going to do when he comes back? And he was fine. And actually, we'll take a look at Jefferson's stats down the stretch last season when he came back. Because he did still, he still put up, I think there were some games where he didn't really, light up the stat sheet, but again, he still finished with over 1,000 yards. Again, only playing in 10 games. Imagine what his numbers would have been had he played every single game. But, yeah, so he came back against the Raiders on December 10th, but then he got hurt again. He had 2 receptions for 27 yards. But, yeah, then he was back the following week. He had 7 receptions for 84 yards. Against the Lions, the first time, he had 6 receptions for 141 yards and a touchdown. Then against the Packers, he had 5 receptions for 59 yards. And then the final game of the regular season, 12 receptions for 192 yards and a touchdown. And that was with Nick Mullins. Pretty much all these games were with Nick Mullins. The Packers game was interesting because they started Jaron Hall and then they switched to Nick Mullins, and the game was out of reach at that point. Yeah, that whole situation didn't really make sense, but that happened. But yeah, Jefferson still had good games, even with Nick Mullins playing quarterback. So I think with Sam Darnold or J.J. McCarthy, Justin Jefferson is still going to put up good numbers. So, but you know what? I do like what he said. I'll bring it back now to, him talking to J.J. McCarthy. Like I said, he's turning into the veteran player now. Right, we could call him a veteran now, I guess. You want to give that rookie quarterback confidence. Because, there's going to be some growing pains, and you're going to face some adversity. But, when you got your teammates encouraging you and backing you up, that's got to give you confidence. And I've said it all along. I think J.J. McCarthy has ended up in a good situation. I don't know how good he's going to be, because I hear a lot of conflicting things. I hear, he wasn't really asked to do much in Michigan, and then you hear people, praise him that he's got this big arm, and he's going to be good. I got to see it for myself. The NFL is different, but like I said, if he's going to be successful, he ended up in a good situation. Because I think Kevin O'Connell is a good offensive mind. You have the best receiver in football. You got a decent receiver in Jordan Addison. That's ascending. T.J. Hawkinson, hopefully he comes back and he's playing to start the season because he got hurt late in the year. And you also have Aaron Jones to rely on. Aaron Jones could still run the football. So, that takes pressure off of your young quarterback. So, like I said, Aaron Jones, I don't think is going to be there for the long term, but still, he's in a good situation. So, And like I said, you're throwing to the best wide receiver in the NFL. So, but you got to like what he said, that, they're going to give him confidence. And, they're going to be behind him. And, yeah, there's going to be some rough stretches. But, being in the right situation, you overcome that. And maybe he turns out to be the guy. So, and you know what? The Vikings, they might not start him right away. It could be Sam Darnold that starts. Which, that could be the best thing for him. But only time will tell what ends up happening. But yeah, I just wanted to comment on what Jefferson had to say. Let me know what you guys think about what he had to say. And what kind of season do you think Justin Jefferson's going to have? And it's, like I said, it's going to be interesting. Because this is going to be the first time, I guess the first full year, where there's no more Kirk Cousins. And that's the only quarterback that Jefferson has known up until last year. But, like I said, he's still going to put up good numbers. But it's going to be interesting now. No Kirk Cousins at all the whole year. And it's Sam Darnold and J.J. McCarthy. So we'll see how that goes. So we are going to take our third break of the show. And then when we come back, we'll talk about Stefon Diggs, some comments he made about his departure from Buffalo. And I'll give you my opinion on it when we come back from break. So with that being said, stick around. And we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the fourth part of the show, we are going to talk about Stefon Diggs, some comments he made about his departure from Buffalo to Houston. So let's get right into that. And, of course, that was one of the biggest trades of the offseason. And now he joins a loaded Texans receiving corps. So this is what he had to say about his time in Buffalo. He said, he's talking about Josh Allen here. He said, he was an intricate piece of my career. At that point, when I left Minnesota, I was a good player, but I always felt more for myself. I felt like I was better than that I could be better than that, and kind of up to that point, I was just like, I'm going to roll the dice and bet on myself. When I got to Buffalo, Josh was and still is my guy. People don't really understand what it's like to be out there. He really embraced me. He kind of had that southern hospitality. We spent a lot of time together, and I probably wouldn't be right here if it wasn't for him. I got a lot of love for that boy, so you all give him a hug and a kiss for me. We had some ups and downs, especially after the first 8 games. So, yeah, this is about 2023. We got a coaching shift and different things going different ways, different schemes. You know the ups and downs of it. But for me, you kind of felt it in the air a little bit. When I got traded, I was happy. I was in a good place, like I said. I told God to light my path, and here I am. So he makes no mistakes. What I've seen... this is what D'Amico Ryans had to say about Diggs. What I've seen is a guy who I thought we would get. A guy who's made plays, and every time we've thrown him the ball, he's come down with it. Sure-handed guy, a really good teammate, a great energy around the building and in the locker room with the guys, so I'm excited to continue to see his growth. And then this is what C.J. Stroud had to say about Diggs. He's been fitting in great. He's come in with his head down and just working. He's helping me out a lot. He's coming in, been a great leader, which I'm proud of him for. He's really been unselfish and wanted to see other guys eat. That was his main thing. Wanted to be around other guys. Well, he says other dogs, and when I think of that, I think of, like, if you're a Yankee fan and them saying how they're dogs. Alex Verdugo, being the main guy in that. He stepped into the role where there's a guy everywhere. He wanted that, and that's what we bring to the table. So, yeah, I mean, you got the head coach and the quarterback praising him, and, Diggs had a lot to say there. I just think, a lot of people would agree with this. It was just time for a change of scenery for, don't want to knock that over. It's my glass of water. But, yeah, it just, both sides needed a fresh start. And you could tell that, because I did a segment on this earlier in the offseason, the article that came out about Josh Allen kind of lashing out at Diggs in week 1 when they lost that game to the Jets. It just seems like something that was building to the point of, all right, well, we're going to move on. And I think that's really what it comes down to. It's just both sides just needed to separate. And, we will see how things go in Houston, because I know people will point to, well, he was kind of the same way in Minnesota too, and that's why he forced his way out. And, well, I don't want to say he forced his way out, but, he ended up getting traded to Buffalo, and now he ended up getting traded to Houston. How is it going to pan out in Houston? Because I could see Diggs getting frustrated. Because there's a lot of guys that are going to get the ball. Diggs is not necessarily the main guy. They got other guys that Stroud is going to spread the ball around too. Nico Collins, who just got paid, he's going to get the ball a lot. Tank Dell, he's going to get the ball. Dalton Schultz. All these guys are going to have their moments to shine. Stephon Diggs is not going to get every single target. And nobody expects that. But I don't know what his mindset is. But I think he has, I would think he realizes that. And this Texans team is going to be really good. And he's going to be a part of it. But like I said, you got to understand, there's other guys that are going to get the ball just as much as you, if not more. So you're going to have to respect that. But I don't think there probably is some, bitterness. But I do believe him when he talks highly of Josh Allen. Because I know the playoff success is not there, but they did have good years together. And they did really work. They worked. That was a great combination while it lasted. It just, like I said, it got sour at the end, and they just, they needed to part ways. And, you go back to last year, Stephon Diggs really didn't have an impact on a lot of games. They were a team that was running the football more. You saw James Cook have some good games down the stretch. Stephon Diggs really just was not an impactful player with the Bills down the stretch. And that doesn't mean that, some people think Diggs is declining and he's washed up. I don't think so. I guess maybe there's some decline, because I know I've said that before, that there's some decline. But I don't think that Diggs is washed up by any means. I think Stephon Diggs is going to have a good season. Now, he might not have a monster season, might not have over 1,000 yards, but I think he's going to be good. He's going to be good with the Texans. I don't think he's just going to fall off like that. I think he just, he didn't get the ball. But you could also point to, well, when Josh Allen, threw that pass to him against the Chiefs and he dropped that, that was a big moment. Got to come down with that. And yeah, you're right. There's a lot of plays you go back to, and I'm sure, and Diggs could have caught the ball or whatever. But you know what? That's going to happen. I don't know. For me, it just seemed like the Bills kind of, phased him out. And they just, like I said, they ran the football more. But I don't think it really had to do with Diggs declining. I think he just wasn't really used. And you know what? Josh Allen doesn't have to force feed him the ball. But, Stephon Diggs is a really good receiver. So, that's your number one option. And, a lot of times guys are going to do that. But, yeah, it's going to be interesting, if we're going to see Diggs, if there's going to be any kind of, drama with him and him not getting the ball enough. And then on the other side with Buffalo, how are the Bills going to be? How's that offense going to be without Diggs? Completely, because there's no Diggs at all. And they're going to spread the ball around, and I think James Cook is going to have a bigger role this year. And, Josh Allen is going to continue to do what he does, and I think he's still going to, put up good numbers this year. But it's going to be interesting. And these teams do meet later in the season, I believe, so I know they definitely do play each other, but I don't know what week specifically. I think it's like in the middle of the year. But, yeah, it should be fun when they play against each other. Looking forward to that. But, yeah, I think, like I said, Diggs has only talked about the good stuff. Well, he did talk about towards the end of last year, but only the good stuff when it comes to Josh Allen. And I think, it needed to end that relationship, but I think they both will appreciate each other because they did bring each other to new heights. When Stephon Diggs got there, Josh Allen took off. And now he's in that conversation, as one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. He's a top 3, top 5 quarterback. Now, I think it's hard for anybody to eclipse Patrick Mahomes, but Josh Allen, he's up there. And Stephon Diggs, had some really good years with Buffalo, too. And that's because of Josh Allen. And I think you could say Brian Dable had something to do with it as well. When it comes to Josh Allen. But, yeah, they helped each other out. They really, like I said, they brought their careers to new heights. That relationship. It was a lot of fun to watch, but it had to end. So, and now Diggs is in Houston, and Josh Allen's got a bunch of new receivers, rookies and, veterans. So, we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes. But let me know what you guys think about what Stephon Diggs had to say. How do you see him performing in Houston? Like I said, I think he'll be good. But, like I said, there's plenty of mouths to feed in that offense. So, he's not going to be the main guy. But we'll see how it goes. So, we are going to take our final break of the show. And then when we come back, we'll talk about some comments made by Nick Sirianni on Saquon Barkley and how he's having fun trolling Giant fans. So, we'll talk about that to finish off the show here. So, with that being said, stick around. And we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the final part of the show, we're going to talk about some comments made by Nick Sirianni about Saquon Barkley and him poking fun at Giant fans. So let's kind of get into that. So this is what he had to say recently. He said, "Sometimes you see Giant fans around here being so close and they give me a good, hey, go Giants, and he responds with, I typically let it go, but if the fan gets me good enough, I usually say, we got your best player. And what's funny about that is I saw on social media, and also my friend said it too, oh, I didn't know that they got Dexter Lawrence. So I thought that was funny. But, yeah, and then the other thing, this is what Saquon had to say. This is about his daughter. She knows there's a lot of history in my career with the Eagles. When I told her that we're going to be going to Philly, she kind of was just like, does that mean we're going to win now? Oh, yeah. Yep, I remember this. And I just started smiling again. I was like, hopefully we can win some more games. And then this is also what Sirianni had to say. Saquon, it's really nice to see him in green. It's really nice to see him here. We missed a tackle on him the other day on the sidelines. Now, we're not tackling in OTAs, but you could tell without pads on, you could tell if that guy made the tackle or not. I had visions back of him like Saquon making somebody miss and doing it again. It brought me back to that. But, yeah, and then he also said, I wasn't happy that our defensive player missed a tackle on this particular play, but I'm really happy that Saquon, that number 26, is on our side, making the guy miss. So, yeah, that's what he had to say. Also, the quote from Saquon's daughter as well. I mean, listen, Nick Sirianni is that guy, and that's why he's not particularly one of my favorite people. But I think it has a lot to do with just he's the Eagles head coach. So, yeah, I mean, being a Giant fan, yeah, you're not supposed to like the Eagles. You're not supposed to like the Cowboys. But stuff like that, does, I'd be lying if I said it doesn't bother me. It bothers me a little bit because, yeah, it's like, well, now you got Saquon on your team. Now, I will say I didn't flip out like a lot of Giant fans did when he went to the Eagles. Was I disappointed? Yeah, I was disappointed because it's a team within the Giants division. And I think it would, like, if he went to the Cowboys, it would have been worse. But yeah, it's just I wish he would have went to another team that's not in their division. Now, I don't think he went to the Eagles to stick it to the Giants. I don't. The Eagles offered him a lot of money, and he took it. So I can't really get mad at him for that. And I think also it just has a lot to do with the Giants really didn't do anything with him. They did win a playoff game, and that was a fun year, but what happened? They went to Philly, and the Eagles knocked them out. They really didn't do a lot of winning with Saquon. Now, that's not Saquon's fault. That's on the front office for not building this team up. I mean, this team has not been good for quite some time. But, I mean, that's just me. I really did not have an attachment to Saquon like some of these other fans. I just didn't. So that's why when he left, I wasn't that upset about it. Because, again, the Giants just have not been good for so long that, I don't know. That's just me. But, when Nick Sirianni says, we got your best player, I mean, is he wrong? Again, Giant fans are kind of salty. That's why they say Dexter Lawrence. I mean, Saquon Barkley, probably the Giants' best player. But some won't admit that because, now he went to the Eagles. But you know what? I think Nick Sirianni's allowed to have a little bit of fun. If a Giant fan is, giving him a hard time, yeah, I mean, you're allowed to say that. That's fine. When Saquon Barkley goes up against the Giants and he comes back to MetLife, I'm curious to see how that whole dynamic is with the fans, because they are going to be booing like crazy. And I expect Saquon to have a good game. I really do. I think originally, I did say this, he didn't stick it to the Giants by signing with the Eagles. But I think now he's going to want to stick it to the Giants because of how the fans have been annoying him on social media. When he went to the playoff game, the Sixers-Knicks game in Philly, I mean, Giant fans were all over him. He's just going out and trying to have a nice time. And you're annoying him over something that happened months ago. So he's definitely going to want to go out there and just, show off. But, like I said, I'm not going to kill him for the decision. That's what he decided to do. So, but again, that's just me. I'm one Giant fan. I'm a Giant fan that's kind of been checked out these last couple. Well, not these last couple, but for a while now, because the team just has not been good. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't watch the games. Of course I watch the games, but I'm also watching. I also want to watch all the other games too. Because, I'm involved in other things with fantasy and the spread pool, so I want to watch some other games. I don't want to just watch my team get destroyed. So, but yeah, it's I'm kind of going to switch my camera over because this has just been getting annoying, and I was trying to get through the rest of this segment, but I feel like it was going to get to a point where it was just going to really act up, and then I'd have to do it anyways. But yeah, I have been having some issues with this camera recently. Now, I don't know if it's from the camera or the adapter that I plugged the USB into, but I don't know. All right, we're good now. Should be good for the remainder of the show here, the last couple of minutes. But now I lost my train of thought of what I was talking about, but I know it's with Saquon. But yeah, it's just like I said, I didn't have attachment to Saquon like some of these other fans did. And you know what? Saquon was a good player, and I think we're going to feel his absence, I think. And they did go out and they bring in Devin Singletary, who had a nice season last year with the Texans, but I mean, he's not Saquon Barkley. So, but again, for the Giants to move forward, I mean, I was okay with them letting him go. It's unfortunate that he ended up going to a division rival. That's the only thing. And like I said, Nick Sirianni might not be my favorite person in the world, but yeah, you're allowed to talk a little bit of trash to Giant fans if they're giving you a hard time. So I'm not gonna let that get. I mean, yeah, it bothers me, but I'm not gonna let it, get to me that much. But and also I just feel like if it was in, like, let's say, because I know this could happen. And not that they're necessarily division rivals, but you could look at them as crosstown rivals, the Yankees and the Mets. Juan Soto is going to be a free agent. The Mets might offer him a ton of money, more money than the Yankees, and he might go to the Yankees, or he might go to the Mets. And now all my friends that are Met fans, yeah, they're going to be, they are going to be blown away by that, if that does happen. Now, if that does happen, that I'll be bitter about. That I would be bitter about. Because, it's like now you have Juan Soto, who's one of the best players in baseball, and the Yankees just had him. I don't know if I think my friends might brag a little bit that they got Soto. If that does happen, that would bother me. But again, that's just me. And I think that it's more so because I'm a bigger Yankee fan than I am a Giant fan. And again, I am friends with Met fans. I feel like that would bother me. This didn't bother. I guess it stings a little bit, but again, I'm not losing sleep over it. Because there were probably Giant fans that did lose sleep over it. I did not. I'm okay. I'm fine. But, yeah, I mean, when you see him come out of the tunnel, when they play each other at the Meadowlands, at MetLife Stadium, and, he's running for $150. Well, I don't know if he's going to, but if he has a big run for a touchdown, like a 75-yard touchdown, yeah, that's gonna hurt. That's gonna hurt. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about what Nick Sirianni had to say. How do you guys think Saquon Barkley's gonna do with the Eagles? I think he's gonna have a great year. Running behind an offensive line that can actually block for him. I think he should do well. I'm curious to see how it's going to be because, there's no more Jason Kelce, but the offensive line's still going to be solid. We'll see how it goes, though. But, yeah, that is pretty much it for the show for today. Thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure to check out all the other shows as well throughout the day. NBA Finals is tomorrow. Stanley Cup Saturday. So, and then once those are over, that's it for the NBA and the NHL. Also, I will be making an appearance on the Chip Shot Football Podcast with Manny as the host. And Emran will be joining us as well. So that will be on Friday. That's, I think, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. So make sure to tune in for that. We're talking football. I know if you did go back and watch the shows from the last couple of weeks, Emran's shows, I did make an appearance on the soccer podcast, talking some soccer. Did the best I could. But we'll be talking football, so I should be all right. But yeah, so make sure to check that out. That's Friday. I'll bring it up tomorrow and Friday as well. But yeah, so that'll be on Friday. But yeah, make sure to go check out all the other shows, and that's pretty much it. So that is all the time that we have for today. Again, thank you guys for tuning in. We'll be back again tomorrow. Same time, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time. And until then, I'm Kenneth Grunfelder signing off from the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Have a good day, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Take care.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn, ain't that great.